Good morning.
Good morning.
Sister Jean Horger, also formerly known as Sister James Anthony. Very good. We'll find out how you got that name. And you began your journey in Detroit.
In Detroit, yes.
Now, first, thank you again for your willingness to come here and do it. We realize that you've had a long, engaged, wonderful life, and we have 30 minutes to put that life into 30 minutes. So I'm hoping just highlights and more things that you think maybe we don't know about you.
Okay.
Which a lot of us know you somewhat, but never do all of us know everyone totally. So let's tell us about the beginning of your journey, where you grew up, your parents, your families, and brothers and sisters, and where you went to school.
Well, I can put that in a nutshell because I was born in 1934, and during the war years, things were rationed, and we weren't wealthy, and neither was anyone wealthy during those years. But I had 5 brothers and sisters, and my biggest thing there is we had a good faith-filled community. My mother, my father, and my grandparents, they were all. That's where I attribute my vocation from. Is
good
from
for
my
you,
family.
Yes, your family.
Yeah, they were very faith-filled. Really, I didn't even think about this until just now, but my grandmother, the Horgers, I went through St. Alphonsus to school, but my grandparents were charter members of St. Alphonsus, and they had large areas of property in Springwell.
Who had large areas of property? Your parents or St. Alphonsus?
No, my grandparents.
Oh.
And Henry Ford was a good friend of my grandmother. They had neighboring farms.
The Henry Ford?
The Henry Ford.
Oh,
and
goodness.
He used to, even until my grandmother died, he used to send over bushel baskets of fruits and vegetables from Greenfield Village to her. And he was an honorary pallbearer at her funeral.
Oh, my word.
And the fence that was put up around St. Alphonsus was put up by him. He wanted that ground cared for after his friend. It was my great grandmother who died.
Okay.
And that's who he was the honorary pallbearer for, my great grandmother. So, anyways,
During the war.
But I have 2 of us are still living. 2 brothers and a sister have died.
Okay.
And we during those war years we just played outside a lot and did a lot of things together as a neighborhood, and it was a fun-filled time. I don't.
You had those little ration books.
Oh yes.
And grease.
Oh, yes.
You had to take grease to the store and get money for it or something.
Oh yeah. And if you'd go to the movies, we used to go to movies to get free dishes. Because they'd give dishes on certain nights, certain days. We'd get our dishes.
Were any of your brothers in the service?
My brother was in the Korean War.
Korea, okay.
But he was in Germany at the time. He was lucky enough in high school to take secretarial, like typing. And so when he entered the service, when he was drafted, they had him as a secretary so he didn't face any of the battle. So that was a blessing for us. But and then my brother Jimmy was Down syndrome, so he didn't, of course. But he was a blessing to our family too.
Did he live at home with you?
Oh yes, my mother. We used to say to my mom, because he used to run away a lot. We'd have to go look for him. One time we found him in a bar eating a cheese sandwich. The police found him in there. But anyway, yeah. One time he took a candy bar that my brother had in the refrigerator, and he was holding it behind his back, and my brother said, "Jimmy, what do you have there?" And he said, "Oh, come on, don't be selfish, let him have it." We quote him a lot.
Oh, that's nice. So he's no longer with you, huh?
No, he died quite a while. He died when he was 43. Yep.
What a blessing. Not that he died, but that he was in such a loving environment. And it is special That was a very special thing. Now, where did you, you went to St. Alphonsus to school. Was Sister Dorothy Burns there at the time?
Yeah, well, no, not at the time, but I knew Sister Dorothy from being there, but no, she wasn't there at the time. Sister Reparata was our principal, and I can remember one funny thing from that. I went through 12 years of school there.
At St. Alphonsus.
Yeah, and we still get together with the people in my class once a year. We used to get together right at Christmas time, but now I think they changed it to October, I think, because of the weather would get bad around Christmas time. So anyway, but one time I was helping Merceda after school, and I had taken sewing. I don't know why I did, but I took sewing. And we didn't even have a sewing machine at home. But anyway, I took sewing, and at the end of the year, I was helping her clean the room and everything, and I had to leave for something, and I came back, and she said, "Oh, thank you for those nice rags." And I looked at her and said, "Those aren't rags. That's my dress that I have to take home and wear tomorrow." So the next day, I wore my dress, and we had to go down to see Well, she wanted to see my dress because I'm sure it was the laugh of the convent.
Oh, isn't that something?
Because the two of us laughed so hard over that.
That's good. So you grew up in Dearborn all that time?
No, I grew up actually in Detroit, 3.5 miles away.
Yeah, but I mean, St. Alphonsus was your parish. And was there one particular sister, other than who you have mentioned, that was kind of a mentor for you?
Well, really, Tresanne, I loved Tresanne, but
Shaner?
Yeah, I loved her. She was, and she was such a good teacher. I liked her a lot, but also Thomas Ann, and Thomas.
Oh yes, Griffin.
Thomas, Thomas, and yeah, those two.
And back in those days, most of the teachers were the sisters, correct?
Oh yes, yes. We didn't have it. We didn't have any. Well, we had Mrs. Project for some classes. She was one of the rare lay people that we had.
So you decided to enter the convent, and how was that for your family?
Oh, well, I have a great aunt, Sister Albertina Horger, was in our community. Okay. And Sister Georgita was my aunt.
Georgita,
yeah, she was my aunt. And I have the Jurgens were related to me.
Leonardine?
Yeah, all the
taught me Latin.
Yeah, and some of the Espers and some of the Tysons I'm related to. They're all distant relations because they're more related through my father and closer related. But the last relation, the last relative I had that died recently was Loretta Francis. She and I were second cousins.
Okay.
So, and she was a Demick, but
Demick, I remember.
But her mother, through her mother's side, we were related.
Wonderful.
I think her mother and my father were first cousins.
But the greatest influence were your parents.
My parents.
As I say, we get our
parents
vocation.
And my grandparents. In fact, when I made final profession, I told my mother, Georgita had already bought my ring. I didn't know that. And my mother and I were talking. I said, "Oh, I'd love to have Grandma and Grandpa's ring." And I didn't say anything, and I didn't want to say anything. She told them. They gave me her ring, so I have my grandparents' ring, and Sister Georgita, I don't know what she did with the ring she bought from me, but anyway.
Well, that's good though that you spoke up. That's wonderful.
Because they meant so much to me. Yeah.
Okay, so then you left formation and you went out and started your ministerial life.
I taught for 21 years, and I enjoyed every class I had. I just and when you say the nuns at St. Alphonsus were all an inspiration to me because I saw them as a happy, joyful group of people. But even though my aunt was an influence on my entering also, I didn't see her as much as I saw
the sisters.
Yes, I felt the influence from my parents and from the nuns at St. Alphonsus.
So then when you started your teaching, you started teaching in elementary school, okay?
Yes, and I taught, actually I taught all my years in elementary school,
Okay.
except for 1 year when I went to the Dominican Republic, and there I taught 2 years there, but I taught English in the school there while I was trying to learn the Spanish.
Do you know Spanish now?
Oh, poquito.
Oh, yeah.
Muy
Yeah.
poquito, especially because I don't speak it anymore. So
Weren't
when
you surprised to get your appointment to the Dominican Republic?
I didn't get it. I chose, actually, it was Mary Pat Dewey that asked me if I would be interested in going there, and it was a blessing that she did, because I was always thinking I would like to work in the missions in some way. But that was later on when I was in Dominican Republic, because I got into, I taught for 21 years, and then I went to, it's actually after Vatican II. I don't know if this is jumping the gun any, but after Vatican II, I really felt through prayer the call to do something other than teach. And we used to send out those prospectus, those job openings from our community.
Correct.
I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah.
And in there I saw this thing for the projects in Colorado, the low-income housing projects in Colorado. So I thought, that's something I feel called to. So I applied, and they had me come out, and I was hired.
Oh.
And it was called the Core Team Ministry.
Uh-huh.
And it was from this lady who lived across the street from the projects, and she had $50, and she put it into this IBM stock, and she made lots and lots of money. Well, when she died, she continued to live in this little old house across from the projects. But when she died, she gave the money to the Archdiocese with the purpose that it be used on the near west side of Denver. So that they hired us then, and 4 of us worked in 4 projects, 4 housing projects.
And what is it that you did?
Pardon me?
What did you do in those projects?
Oh, we went and visited. We visited homes, and I remember. Well, I remember the first time I thought I had this nice group all together for a Bible study, and the nuns laughed when I came home and said, "Oh, I'm going to have a Bible study with," and they laughed because they knew it wouldn't happen. And I got there that night, it was just the lady who was having me at her house and myself. But then after I got to know the people and they trusted me, we had a nice Bible study.
Oh, that's good.
And I took the older students and helped them receive the sacraments. And we would go, I would take the younger ones, and we'd go out camping up in the mountains, because they never had those opportunities. And we had to teach them to respect other people's property too, because you know, that wasn't always in their training.
Got it, yeah.
And so,
well spoken.
But I remember one night when we were out up in the mountains, and I went to the pump to wash up a little bit, because there were nothing but a little pump and wash your face and hands. But when I came back, all the kids were singing the Our Father. Remember the Our Father? That was popular. They were singing it because they were afraid of Bigfoot while I was away. Now, they could go to 2 or 3 in the morning without being afraid in the projects, but up in the mountains,
Isn't that something?
they were afraid of Bigfoot.
Is that where you got your liking for camping?
Oh, yes, I did, yeah. But anyway, I did other things in the projects too. I went to court with a fellow because he was afraid he was going to have to go to prison. So I went in court to speak for him, and the judge gave him a rehab house to live in instead of going to prison, which he was thankful for, and I was too, because he wasn't a bad guy. He did some wrong things, but he wasn't a bad guy. And I remember, this is still in the projects, I would take the younger kids, not the little younger, but 7th, 8th graders, and help them make the sacraments. And I remember this one, we were going to go to confession, and this one boy said, "I don't want to go in there." He said, "I'll go in if you go in with me." So, the priest let me go in with him.
Oh,
And he went to
I've never heard of that.
the priest let me go in with him, and he went to confession, and I said, I can't even remember his name now, but I said, what about this one? Don't you want to talk? And he said, no, I don't want to talk about that. And Father said, did you tell Sister Jean about that? And he said, yes. He said, well, then I forgive you.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So,
blessed moment. Uh-huh.
yeah. But there were many. One time I was driving, we had a car, the Archdiocese gave its car, but sometimes we couldn't have use of it, so we had a bicycle. I was riding my bicycle over that's the other blessing of living and going to Colorado. I lived with a Mercy sister. This was in 1974. I lived with a Mercy sister, a Franciscan, a Great Bend Dominican, and myself and Fran Frayne. So we lived in community, and it was my first experience of living in with a mixed community.
That's
and
wonderful.
They're
great.
Yeah.
Other human beings, just like us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just really a beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I was riding over to my bicycle, and I stopped at this one house. And this lady's husband just died. She wasn't in the projects. It was in a house going to the projects. Her husband had just died, and I didn't know that. So it was sort of like the Spirit directing me there. And so she asked me if I'd go next door and tell, after I was with her for a while, and tell his friend. So I went up to his friend's house, and he was sitting on the porch, and I went up and greeted him, and he said, I can't remember his name, just say Jose. He said, Jose died, didn't he? I said, how did you know? And he said, well, I just dozed off, and he came into my mind, and he said, take care of my wife. So I thought, wow, that's something, that he got a premonition through her husband that he died and she would need him. So that was a really beautiful experience.
As you look back again at your ministries, is there another one? You were there in Colorado for about 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
And is there another ministry? They all are special, but sometimes, for some reason, one or two of them were transformative in our life. The experience was.
Yes, there were actually a couple. Well, this one I can just say real fast because I wasn't there that long, but it was Migrant ministry. And I went to Fremont, Ohio, where the migrants picked, they called them pickles, but little cucumbers that they make into pickles. Yeah. And then after they were finished picking the pickles, we went with them, we traveled with them to Plant City, Florida. So they would
really?
So they would stay in the same school. They didn't have to change schools because that was the problem with the migrant children. They were always with different schools, so they stayed with the same school. And but the only problem with that was I couldn't stay on too long because I was hired to work with the adults, and they were in the fields from morning till night, and so they were too tired. And I couldn't go in the fields. They wouldn't allow us in the fields. So,
well, you were taking away work from them too.
Yeah. So anyway, what I did was I worked with the teenagers there too, and I helped them receive the sacraments. And
that's wonderful.
Yeah, I worked with them, and then I was sort of like a gopher. But there again, I worked with different communities. I lived with different communities. I lived with a male man who was a gentleman who was the bus driver, an elderly woman who was the nurse. She was a retired nurse. I lived with a young woman just out of college who was the teacher. I lived with a Notre Dame sister.
Wow.
And a Mercy sister, and myself. And the Mercy sister is the one who started this migrant ministry. But that's just. I guess in parish work, the one that, well, of course I loved all of my ministries, but the one that stands out to me right now is Our Lady of the Woods in Woodhaven, because I did everything there. I worked with the people, I visited hospitals, but one thing, we did RCIA, and when it came time for baptism, I went into the water with them.
Really?
and I dunked them as Father said the words, and that was very meaningful
Yes,
for me.
yes,
That I helped to baptize them because I helped to train them. So
That
it was
is-
nice that I was
yes.
able to help to baptize them. I
Yeah.
dunked them as Father said the words, and that was very.
Never heard of that. That's well, now that they do it in the water.
Yeah.
Did you live in the convent at that time? Or
Yes, I lived for a while with Teresa Mayran, Mary
she was
Mackard, and
okay.
she does all the I can't think of her name right now. Anyway, we lived together in community, and then Teresa's father got bad, so she had to move out, and Mary had a lot of asthma problems, so we couldn't stay in the house. So then I moved over to where I'm living now in
Taylor.
And right across the way was Lenore Boyven and Helen Stone and Andrea lived there. And
you all have been there for a long time.
Yeah, I've been there now for about 14 years.
Really?
But when I first moved, when we used to, and we still do, we play cards together every Friday night. It's a
nice, relaxing, fun thing to do.
Yeah, and we were sort of like our own community there. But then gradually they all had to move out because Andrea had to come to Adrian, and Mona, of course, died. Ramona Nowak was there for a year or two, and she got a job at St. John Hospital, so she moved, and Teresa got a job over on the other side of the city, so she moved to, and it was just Lenore.
So you and Lenore right now are the ones that are there.
The only ones there, but we
that's nice.
We meet with an IHM and with Annette DeSluver, and we play cards.
Okay, and Janet.
So, and but yeah,
Fun times.
that's where I am right now. But that was the ministry, and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but even though I'm retired, I do a lot of things that keep me with people because that energizes me.
Good.
To be with people.
You know what you need to keep going.
Yeah, yeah. Like I tutor at Siena Literacy Center.
What do you think it is that people say? We say, "I'm retired, but I'm still working." What makes it different now than when you were? What you felt you were working? You are still working, but the two works are different.
Yeah. Well, I'm back into teaching again now, and that's a difference because that was a part of my life for a long time, and so to be able and to see the fellows. One fellow, he could hardly read, and he said to me, "I didn't know letters had sounds." He was so excited about that, but he taught me some things. I'm nil on technology. He taught me a lot about my cell phone.
Wonderful.
And so he felt proud over the fact that he could come in and show me things on the cell phone, and I could teach him to read. So he felt good about that too. So what makes it different is, I don't know, I just sort of eased into the other. So
Which you knew it was time to let go of some responsibilities and the freedom you have right now to raise your hand and help here and help there.
Yeah,
and you don't have to. You want to stay engaged in life.
Yes, and I have a little community at church, and we go out to breakfast every Sunday morning.
Oh, isn't that nice? Okay, and that's good for all of you because you minister to each other.
Yeah, yeah, and I take classes at. This is nice because I can take some classes at the community college that I want to take.
What are you taking?
Well, right now I'm trying to learn more about the cell phone and
good luck,
and about the tablet. And so he's teaching me that. I did take Photoshop, which I'm going to have to take over again. If I got a mark, I probably would have gotten.
Well, that's wonderful to keep learning.
Yeah, so I do. I try, and I'm also taking Thomas Kincaid's type of art, type of acrylic. So I take acrylic classes every.
But do you paint?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
too?
But I don't consider myself an artist really.
I think we're all artists in our own way.
Yeah, but I'm not a Janet Rice Wright or
one Janet Wright's enough. Pardon me, Janet, for saying that. No, she does beautiful work.
Oh,
we have to stop comparing ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah,
she can't do what you do.
And Sue Schreiber and some other people. I was just reading Jean Denomey. Last night I was reading some of her poetry. What a beautiful poet she is. And I thought, oh, wow, we have some talent in our community. Oh, my.
We do. Every single person has something to give.
But anyway, I did start, when I first retired, I wanted to get into painting, into some kind of creative work. So I stopped at the senior center, and they were offering watercolor. So I took watercolor, and I'm still going there. The teacher is not teaching anymore because she said we know more than she does, but she comes and she'll give us assistance, and we just do our own thing when we go.
What do you do with the paintings?
Oh, that's another thing. Need any paintings? I got them till they come out of the gazoo.
Oh, that's neat.
I got so many. I've given some away to my family, to my mission group. I should go again to my mission group because we have more people in there now. I don't know what I'm going to do with them all. I even did a craft show.
Oh, you did?
I sold some at a craft show.
Good for you. Good for you.
Sold some of there. But that's a lot of work, and people would just want you to give them away at craft shows, and you know, it costs money for that. So anyway, so I didn't do any more craft shows.
It's good mental health.
Yeah, yeah. So I do painting. I do water aerobics 3 days a week, and I enjoyed that very much because then again I'm with another group of people, and we enjoy one another.
You are a people person.
Yeah, I am. I'm very much a people. And I love camping. I have camped I started camping when I was in Colorado. And Teresa, well, first of all, Mary Louise Gass and I would go camping.
That's right. Now there comes a time,
and we would go camping every summer. Then Teresa was looking for someone, and she discovered that I like camping. So then I would go 2 weeks, 1 week with Mary Louise and 1 week with Teresa, and we would camp outside. Because I see nature as the beauty of creation and just God and all of that. I don't see how anyone can say they don't believe in God when they look at creation. It's so beautiful. And I used to, with Mary Louise, we would play games a lot. We would bring games, and we would play. With Teresa, we did more retreat. It was a quiet type, and we'd still play a card game or something every night, but it was more of a quiet time. So I had two types of camping when I was with. Then
well, that's interesting, isn't it? Whoever you go with is different, right? As a lesson. You've learned many lessons in your lifetime. Might there be one that you can recall quickly, that you learned a lesson that you'd like to share with us? Many people say to me as they listen to the stories, you know, that lesson that so-and-so talked about, that was really interesting. I learned something from her. So what is it that we can learn from you, or what is a lesson that you learned early in lifetime, just recently, that still sticks with you?
Well, let me think. I guess just to respect people where they're at. That's the biggest lesson I learned, because when I worked with the people in the projects, they taught me so much, even though they were so poor.
What did they teach you?
They taught me to be respectful of others.
Interesting.
They would go to I remember this one little boy got his hand caught in the door, and he was really in bad shape, and the lady next door drove them to the hospital, sat with them all day long, and then brought them home. They were neighbors to one another. That's what taught me in the projects, that the people were one for one another. You know, people are afraid to work, but they were very, very. That was a neighborly. And we used to have mass in the projects every Sunday, and the priest would come.
Oh, that's great.
And so if the priest wasn't there, if the priest wasn't there, I would do everything but you know, concentrate. I would get host, and we would have a prayer service, and then we would have communion, and we had a fellow who played the guitar, so we had mariachi music and someone that did different instruments. So anyway, but no, a lesson I think I learned from everybody, from the people in the projects, is to have respect, not to put stereotypes on people. Because of because of where they're,
whatever, yeah,
because of their circumstance in life, not to put stereotypes on them, because you just don't know where they're coming from or their background.
Jean, how do you want to be remembered?
As a person who loves nature,
right?
As a person who, prayer is very important to me in my life. Most of the things I've done through prayer. I've been guided through prayer for them. So prayer is very important for me in my life. And people, of course, are very important to me in my life. But I think I would like to be remembered as a person who loved life, and who tried to live it, to the full. Good. I don't do it as well right now because of my walking disability.
But you live it to the fullest of who you are at this point,
right.
Which is your living life.
Yes.
And that's why you get energized, and you energize others as well by your presence.
Well, thank you.
You do.
Thank you. I do tutoring, and art and water aerobics, and Teresa and I are indoor camping this year because we can't go outdoor. So that's what we're doing at Killarney this week.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
We're at Killarney.
Is she with you?
Yes, she's with me. We're doing indoor camping this week.
I should have gotten her. I wish I had known that. Where do you think the Holy Spirit might be leading you at this particular time in your life?
Well, I think it's just to be and to listen and to see what happens, because I have great devotion to the Holy Spirit. And I'll tell you, I pray to the Holy Spirit every day. And I pray for our community to the Holy Spirit.
Good.
I ask for guidance for our community.
Wonderful.
Every day. And just to be and to see what will happen. I don't know where the Spirit is going to guide me. I'm thinking someday the Spirit might guide me to Adrian, and
you'll know.
And well, I do know already, but my sister has a need for me right now. She's on oxygen 24/7, and she lives near me, and I call her every day to make sure she's all right. And so right now I don't feel
that's good, but you'll know when it's time.
Yeah.
And just you're open to the Spirit, and you're open to life, and
open to whatever the Spirit calls me. But I do enjoy life, and I enjoy reading too.
Is there anything else as we close up our time together that you wish I had asked you and I didn't?
No, not really. I can't think of anything. I think I mentioned everything that
we needed to hear.
Yeah,
it was good for us to hear.
Well,
thank you, Sister Jean Horger, Sister James Anthony, for coming to share your ministry, to share your life, your sister's story. It certainly was full, and you have always lived life to the fullest. I know from my relationships with you.
Thank you.
And you're always very positive and ready to go on. So the congregation thanks you for the many ways that you have preached and brought the good news to so many people.
Well, thank you. I think they brought good news to me too. And the community has certainly brought good news to me.
Okay, well, thank you.